Hello, my name is Rob Heim again. I want to tell you a little bit about the lesson. Could you imagine that, that the main lesson is divided into three parts, and actually the English lesson is divided into three parts too, in a way more subtle and a little bit tightly organized. But before we go into the nitty-gritty, I want to tell you a little bit about things, like, for example, when you're teaching the children, the first thing to do, in a way, is to get them involved, get them really involved into something. And then you practice it, and then you really discover how to do it. Let's put it like you get to know things, you get acquainted with them, and you have the ability to do the things. Let's start a little bit differently. You have to get their awareness, and then if you've got their awareness, then you'll get their interest. And the interest awakens the motivation. So you can't motivate children just like that. You've got to do it in a different way, get their awareness. And when you're structuring the lessons, before we start that, I would always like to mention that the emotions, the feeling, the rhythms, music, everything they are doing are the carriers of long-term memories. They won't remember it by remembering it in their heads. They'll have to do it with their bodies, they'll have to sing it, they'll have to chant it, or get their emotions going. Even in the upper school, you will be able to arrest or to interest the students the moment you get their awareness and their feelings. And their feelings are very important. So aim for, I would say, for feeling, practice, and then knowledge. Attitude, aptitude, and ability. Yes. Now I want to go on to the, if you don't mind, I hope not too much, I want to go on to the small main lesson. There's a rhythmical part, a main part, and the final part. It's all a little bit difficult to separate, to structure them. But let's talk about the rhythmical part. Breathing movements. Breathing. I'm writing sort of catchwords, so I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to tell you them. It's like a bit of brainstorming, isn't it? Breathing, moving, class spirit, a feeling we are together, music or recitation, prose passages, rounds, songs, interaction, social team feeling, definitely soft skills, getting those who never open their mouths to say something, not too long, not too short, reciting reduces, of course, when they get in the class 7, 8, 9, 10. The higher the grades, the less, the more the rhythmical part. So this part shouldn't be too long, especially in class 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they stand for 5 minutes, but not long, because they excarnate. And if you overdo it, it leads to screaming and shouting, like Rudolf Steiner said so. So don't overdo it. Alternate it, but that's the next part. The main part. Now we're still in class 1, 2, and 3, moving up now to 4, 5, and 6. This part you shouldn't skip, and you should be consequent, because Waldorf teachers don't like to practice things too much, because the kids don't like to keep to this kind of lane of practicing. Be consequent. I would practice one topic thoroughly. Introducing new themes is of course okay, but don't repeat. Rather than repeating, you just recreate this practice element in a creative way. Alternate it. Go into the quality and the depth by emphasizing articulation, intonation, pauses, fluency, sentence, melody flow, groups, solos, pairs, class-teacher interaction. The main thing is that this practice part, either deepening or introducing something new, should be full of creativity. So you'll have to be aware of that and take care when you're doing it. And it leads, of course, to the end feeling, I can do it, I have learned it. And that's why they do it on the the monthly festivals, or when the parents come to the evenings and they just perform something, it's a joy, it's a pleasure. In the middle school, the higher middle school, I would introduce grammar topics, and important issues and contents. Lots of deepening in grammar structures. The final part, it depends on the level again of the class, the grades. Reading, writing, discussing, questions to texts, checking the homework, preparing the homework, preparing tests and examinations, teaching or explaining. One important thing I would really recommend is teaching the children how to learn, learning to learn, because they don't have a clue what they're doing. So let's do the final part. This is the end of the lesson, and it's actually depending on the grades, you know, on the classes. Either it's a story in class 1, 2, and 3, or the introduction of something you're going to write in at the end of class 3. It could be a text. It could be games, of course, but not too many games, please. Happy medium is the big word, isn't it? Yeah. Let's go into it now. The final part. In the final part, I would do, at the end of class 3, I would start with the reader book, and then I would go on in class 3 onwards with reading and writing, discussing questions to text, workbooks, whatever, checking the homework, preparing the homework, because there has to be homework. By the way, homework is something which is terribly important in the middle school. Maths and English languages, you have to do actually every day a little bit. So you're going to have to take care of what you give out. Waldorf schools want to learn. The pupils want to learn something. So I would really give a sensible amount of homework. Of course, creative again, which they are glad to do, and they do it really properly. So we're preparing tests, exams in the middle school, the upper school, teaching them again, learning to learn, because this is a big thing. They don't know how to learn, so tell them how to learn. Compare with the children. How do you learn your vocabularies? How do you prepare for a test? Go through it. It's really worth doing this thoroughly. Clearing problems when students or the class has a problem with you, or with the homework too much, too little, they don't feel actually very, very pleased about it. You can, of course, talk to them about it and not put the English stuff in between the humanity part. Talk to them. I did worksheets, and I taught them how to control the homework, to realize it's a matter of organization and administration, but it's not a lot of work. So yeah, write the homework very clearly on the blackboard and verbalize it very clearly, dictate it, or whatever you like to do, or photograph it with the handles from the blackboard, but don't underestimate a good picture on the blackboard. Practice it, that your handwriting is really very clearly and visually nice to look at. The typical pitfalls or the teaching errors you are going to make. Even experienced teachers do make these errors every now and then, because the longer you teach, it doesn't mean that you're going to get better. Quality is something which you have to control. Even teachers, I would invite to your lessons to look at you very carefully. These are now typical pitfalls. Let's call it the happy medium. There's too much recitation. It's too long. It's too much of the class. The teacher talks too much. Students listen far too long. They get passive. They get worried. Times of complete quietness, even if it's a minute, don't have them talking. Active listening, what is then that? Active listening, rather than lecturing or talking down to the students. Talk to the students, not down to them. Talk with them. Boring mechanical process, no highlights, no humor. What's going on here? It's all very, it's pretty boring. Tolerating behavior that disturbs everyone leads nowhere. The students won't stop. Make a behavior policy and take the consequences. Make agreements that are understood and will be supported by the pupils. Speak clearly, slowly, with a good intonation. Avoid a boring monotone voice, you know, it won't work. Pinpoint what you feel is important. And students you want to help. Write down students you're going to further and help in the lesson. Always different ones. And don't forget, maths and languages need daily practice. They have to practice lively, creatively, like Waldorf students do. All the vocabularies, it's nothing terrible. Without words, you can't speak it. Without the grammar, there's no consciousness. Steiner said, if you speak the language, there is a kind of consciousness, but if you speak it consciously, this awakens something totally different in you. And whatever you do, make a feeling of, radiate a feeling of commitment, of seriousness. Of course, you can be friendly to them, but don't forget, you're not their partner, you're not their friend, you're their teacher. So do your job properly. And like I said, good luck, and till we see each other again.